The rain hammered against the windows of our small cottage in the Cotswolds, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 17 years, our lives, mine and Genevieve's, had been a tapestry woven with shared dreams, quiet evenings by the fire, and the comforting rhythm of daily life. Jasper, a landscape artist, found solace and inspiration in the rolling hills and ancient woodlands surrounding our home. Genevieve, a respected veterinarian, dedicated her life to healing animals, a passion I deeply admired. We had met at a local art fair. I was showcasing my watercolors and she was volunteering with a local animal shelter. Her bright smile and genuine warmth had captivated me instantly. We married 2 years later, settling into a life that from the outside seemed idyllic. We weren't wealthy, but we were content. We had each other, our shared love for nature, and a comfortable routine. So I thought. The first crack in our facade appeared subtly, almost imperceptibly. Genevieve started working late more frequently at the clinic in Stow-on-the-Wold. Emergency surgery, she'd explain, her eyes tired but her voice reassuring. I never doubted her. Why would I? She was Genevieve, the woman I trusted implicitly, the woman who had promised to love me till death do us part. Then came the weekends away, attending veterinary conferences in places like Bristol and Birmingham. I encouraged her to go, knowing how important continuing education was in her field. I even helped her pack, meticulously folding her clothes and making sure she had everything she needed. Looking back, the irony is almost unbearable. The real seismic shift occurred about 6 months ago. Genevieve became distant. The easy conversation that had always flowed between us dried up. She seemed preoccupied, her thoughts elsewhere. Our physical intimacy dwindled to almost nothing. When I tried to talk to her about it, she brushed it off, blaming stress from work and the general pressures of life. "Don't worry, Jasper," she'd say, forcing a smile. "It's just a phase. Things will get back to normal." I wanted to believe her. I clung to those words like a lifeline, desperate to salvage the love we had built together. But deep down, a nagging voice whispered that something was terribly wrong. I tried to ignore it, to attribute it to my own insecurities and anxieties. But the voice grew louder, more insistent, until it became impossible to ignore. The catalyst for my unraveling came in the form of a misplaced receipt. It was a rainy Tuesday morning. Genevieve had already left for work. I was cleaning the kitchen, a task I often took on to lighten her load, when I found it tucked inside her purse. It was a receipt from a small, intimate restaurant in Cheltenham, a good 45-minute drive from our cottage. The date was last Saturday, the same day she was supposedly at a conference in Birmingham. The receipt was for 2 people. The amount spent was significant, far more than a simple lunch. My heart began to pound in my chest. A cold dread washed over me. I felt a knot forming in my stomach, tightening with each passing second. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she had gone to Cheltenham for something else entirely. Maybe she had met a friend for lunch. But the 2 people detail haunted me. It wouldn't leave me alone. Driven by a need to know, to either confirm or dispel my growing suspicions, I decided to drive to Cheltenham. I knew it was a long shot, but I had to do something. I couldn't bear the uncertainty any longer. The restaurant was called the Willow Tree. It was a charming little place tucked away on a quiet side street. I walked inside, my hands clammy, my throat dry. The hostess, a young woman with bright red hair, greeted me with a warm smile. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say. "I was wondering if you could help me with something," I stammered. "I'm trying to track down a reservation that was made last Saturday." I gave her Genevieve's name, hoping against hope that she wouldn't find anything. But she typed it into the computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard. After a few seconds, she looked up at me, her expression unreadable. "Yes, we have a reservation under that name," she said. It was for 2 people at 7:30 p.m. My heart sank. The confirmation, though expected, was like a physical blow. I felt the blood draining from my face. I gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady myself. Do you remember who she was with?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The hostess hesitated again, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and discomfort. "I'm sorry, sir," she said. "I can't give out that information." I understood. She was just doing her job. But I needed to know. I had to know, please, I pleaded, my voice cracking. It's very important. It could save my marriage." She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes searching mine. I could see the empathy in her face. Finally, she sighed and leaned closer. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered. But I remember the couple. The woman was definitely the one who made the reservation. The man, he was tall, dark hair, wearing a suit. They seemed very close. Tall, dark hair, wearing a suit. The description matched someone I knew all too well. Theron, Genevieve's boss at the veterinary clinic. He was a suave, charismatic man, always impeccably dressed. I had met him a few times at clinic events. He had always been overly friendly with Genevieve, a fact I had dismissed as simply being professional. But now it all made sense. The late nights, the weekends away, the distance, the lies. It was all adding up to a devastating conclusion. I thanked the hostess, my voice thick with emotion. I stumbled out of the restaurant, the rain feeling colder and more relentless than before. I sat in my car, staring blankly ahead, the reality of the situation crashing down on me. My wife was having an affair with her boss. The woman I had loved and trusted for 17 years had betrayed me in the most profound way imaginable. The drive back to the cottage was a blur. I felt numb, detached from reality. I went through the motions of driving, but my mind was racing, trying to process the information. When I arrived home, Genevieve wasn't there. I went inside, the silence of the cottage amplifying my pain. I walked through the rooms, each one a reminder of the life we had shared, the memories we had created. But now those memories were tainted, poisoned by the knowledge of her betrayal. I sat down at the kitchen table, my head in my hands, and wept. I wept for the loss of my marriage, for the shattered trust, for the dreams that had been destroyed. I wept for the man I used to be, the man who had believed in the power of love and commitment. Genevieve arrived home around 7 o'clock. She walked in, her face tired but her smile bright. "Hello, darling," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "How was your day?" I stared at her, my heart filled with a mixture of anger and pain. How could she act so normal, so nonchalant after what she had done? "I know," I said, my voice cold and hard. Her smile faltered. "Know what?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. "I know about Theron," I said. "I know about Cheltenham. I know about everything." Her face paled. She took a step back, her eyes wide with fear. "Jasper, I don't," I interrupted, holding up my hand. "Don't lie to me anymore. Just tell me the truth." "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated for a moment, then her shoulders slumped. 6 months, she said, her voice barely audible. 6 months. 6 months of lies, of deception, of betrayal. 6 months of me being a fool. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why did you do it?" She looked down at the floor, avoiding my gaze. "I don't know," she said. "It just happened. Theron, he made me feel alive again. He paid attention to me. He made me feel wanted, and I didn't," I asked, my voice rising. "Didn't I make you feel wanted? Didn't I love you enough?" "It's not that," she said, her voice pleading. "It's not about you, it's about me. I was unhappy, I felt trapped, I needed something more." "So you cheated on me?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's your solution to unhappiness, to destroy everything we've built together?" She started to cry. "I'm sorry, Jasper," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you, but you did," I said, my voice flat. "You hurt me more than you can possibly imagine." I stood up from the table, my legs shaky. "I want you to leave," I said. "I want you out of my house, out of my life." "Jasper, please," she begged. "Don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this." "No," I said, shaking my head. "There's nothing to fix. You broke it, you destroyed it, and I can't forgive you." She continued to plead, to beg, to cry, but I was unmoved. The woman I had loved was gone, replaced by a stranger, a liar, a betrayer. I watched as she packed her bags, her tears streaming down her face. I felt nothing, just emptiness. As she walked out the door, she turned to me one last time. "I'll always love you, Jasper," she said. I didn't respond. I simply closed the door behind her, shutting her out of my life forever. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork, lawyers, and divorce proceedings. The cottage felt empty and cold without her. I spent my days wandering through the countryside, trying to find solace in the beauty of nature. But even the rolling hills and ancient woodlands seemed to mock me, their beauty a stark contrast to the ugliness of my reality. I learned later that Theron had left his wife and children for Genevieve. They moved to a small town in Cornwall, far away from our lives. I heard through mutual acquaintances that they were happy, that they had found there something more. I tried to move on, to rebuild my life. I focused on my art, pouring my pain and anger into my paintings. I started dating again, but nothing felt right. Every woman I met was compared to Genevieve, and none of them measured up. One evening, about a year after the divorce, I received a phone call. It was from a woman I didn't recognize. "Hello, is this Jasper?" she asked. "Yes, it is," I replied. "My name is Bronte," she said. "I'm Theron's wife." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice wary. "I know what Genevieve did to you," she said. "And I know what Theron did to me. I think we should talk." We met at a small pub in a nearby town. Bronte was a quiet, unassuming woman, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. We talked for hours, sharing our stories of betrayal and heartbreak. We discovered that Theron had a history of infidelity, that Genevieve was just the latest in a long line of women he had seduced. As we talked, a strange sort of bond formed between us. We understood each other's pain in a way that no one else could. We had both been victims of Theron's deceit, and we were both struggling to heal. Over the next few months, Bronte and I became close friends. We supported each other through the difficult times, offering comfort and understanding. We discovered that we had a lot in common: a shared love for literature, a similar sense of humor, and a deep appreciation for honesty and integrity. One day, as we were walking through the woods, Bronte stopped and turned to me. "Jasper," she said, her eyes filled with emotion. "I know this might sound strange, but I think I'm falling in love with you." I stared at her, stunned. I had never considered the possibility of a relationship with Bronte, but as I looked into her eyes, I realized that she was right. I was falling in love with her too. We started dating, cautiously at first, afraid of repeating the mistakes of the past. But our love grew stronger with each passing day. We found solace and healing in each other's arms. We learned to trust again, to believe in the possibility of love after betrayal. 2 years later, Bronte and I were married. We bought a small cottage by the sea, far away from the Cotswolds and the painful memories of the past. We built a new life together, a life filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. Genevieve eventually contacted me, years later. She was alone. Theron had left her for someone younger, and she was battling cancer. She asked for forgiveness. I told her I had forgiven her long ago, not for her sake, but for my own. I wished her peace, and then I hung up. Life, I learned, is full of unexpected twists and turns. It can be cruel and unfair, but it can also be beautiful and rewarding. Betrayal can leave deep scars, but it can also lead to unexpected blessings. I lost my first love, but I found a second, a love that was stronger and more enduring than anything I had ever known. And in the end, that's all that really matters.